This is Jason Easley of Politicus USA and The Daily, here today to talk about the crumbling Trump regime that we haven't talked about since the last week. I see people popping in, so we're going to let everybody get signed in. I'm going to get myself into the chat here so I can see y'all better. And I'm going to put a couple things in the chat right away. The first thing I'm going to put in the chat before we talk about anything else is Sarah's article today for The Daily, because it's really timely. It's really important, and y'all need to see it. It's about the John Lewis Day of Action coming up on Thursday. Sarah gives some more information and ideas of what people are going to be doing. Here we go. There, I got it pulled up now. Now I just need access to our chat, which hasn't come through for me yet. There we go. Okay. Now I can put this up. I'm going to mute my sound on my computer so you guys don't have to get all that nasty feedback. Okay, be sure to check out this article. This is really important. Get into good trouble on July 17th. Good trouble lives on. Now, some people were a little confused. This is not a no kings protest. There's going to be protests involved with the day. It's a day of action. There's going to be organizing and activism. So it's not really like a unified No Kings kind of thing. As you can see, No Kings tends to happen every few months on Saturdays. This is happening on a Thursday. There's tons of events all around the country, though. And what I'm about to put in the chat for you here will tell you where you can find a local event or get involved some way. Here we go. I'm putting this in right now. Good Trouble Thursday is what I'm going to put in the chat. You can follow this link, get all the information you need, including links to where you can get involved at. Oh, I see Richard Chu. Hello, Richard Chu. I'm used to listening to you every other Monday at 8 a.m. our time for Sarah's interviews. It's nice to see you, Richard. So let's discuss a little bit about the topic of the day. But if you guys want to talk about the day of action on Thursday, we can do that in a little bit. Look, the one thing you need to be aware of, everybody's kind of went crazy on this Jeffrey Epstein thing, and especially on cable news. And the one thing that we all need to understand is that this Jeffrey Epstein kind of fissure within MAGA isn't all 100% about MAGA. It's really about kind of the crumbling of the facade of MAGA. I'm not even going to say it's about Trump's hold on power involving MAGA, because I don't think any of those people are reachable. The hardcore base, I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think it's going to be like they're going to wake up and go, oh my God, Trump lied to us about the Epstein thing. No, they don't understand the facts. And I think a lot of people who watch regular news also don't quite get the perception that these folks aren't hearing what you're hearing. They literally know nothing about, or very little about, Trump's scandals, problems, behavior, things he's done. They have even been sold that the Medicaid cuts, which have seeped through somewhat, are not going to hit them. Um, Somebody is complaining about my presentation. Uh, Try making a new video when you're ready. Maybe you should try watching another free chat, because I am ready. I'm here. Part of this interaction, rational thinker might not be understanding, is I'm looking away so that I can look at you guys coming in and talk to you guys as well. I don't do things the way some of these other people do this. This isn't just me sitting here talking to you and you passively listening. Okay? If you don't understand that, then maybe you need to learn that we're using a different format. Probably is a bot or just some angry person B. So let's get back into our topic at hand. The topic at hand is, it's actually a threefold situation. The Jeffrey Epstein thing is just a representation, because Trump directed his Department of Justice Pam Bondi is AG, to cover up, as in they say it's a cover up, to not release the relevant Jeffrey Epstein case information that's still out there. Okay. So we have that area. And then we have the people beneath Bondi at the FBI, Cash Patel and Dan Bernardino, who are now saying Dan Bernardino is ready to quit because Dan Bernardino was a Jeffrey Epstein true believer and he believed that that information would be released. Now, what they think they're going to find in that information, if you ask 20 people, you're going to get 20 different answers. But that's problem number one, the infrastructure within the information, the infrastructure within the administration. And then an interrelated problem goes to the Texas flooding and the questions that are being asked. And this is super, super important, really, because this goes to the heart of governing. When Kristi Noem went on the Sunday shows yesterday, and I'm paraphrasing because she did several, but wouldn't or couldn't answer about the federal response and why the federal response was delayed, except to fall into the fake news. I don't know who these female officials are who are saying this, but this is inaccurate. This is not, these are all lies. Who's saying this? There was no answer. There was no answer there at all for why the federal government didn't act sooner. I think the answer is because Senator Ron Wyden said this. Kristi Noem's incompetence got children killed. Kristi Noem wanted to put in a rule where she personally approves any expenditure over $100,000. Now, if any of you have ever had the misfortune of being of in a natural disaster or have your area subjected to a natural disaster or hit by natural disaster, you'll know that the damage totals the millions, hundreds of millions, sometimes billions of dollars when it comes to things like Hurricane Sandy. Um, $100,000 approval that paralyzes the federal response. So we're talking about Trump's administration is being exposed because, he's not picking the best people. Government qualifications did not apply. He's picking the most loyal people. And those loyalists are not very good at running the agencies they've been put in charge of. And the third element of this is ICE, immigration, and the way the public has turned on basically what Trump viewed as his fundamental issue. We have some people having some technical problems that the chat is still loading for them. So hang in there. That's not really my area of expertise. That's not something happened on my end. That sounds like a Substack problem. But if everybody gets all frozen up, let me know because every once in a while these kind of things happen and we may have to end and start over, even though it makes me cringe and I don't want to do that. Um, but the third element here is the ICE and the deportation and the public turning on Trump. Remember, in terms of governing, and even somebody who fancies himself to be a imperial president, like I won't say fascist or dictator ruler, but I'm sure Trump definitely has those impulses. But those, as we can see, our system and basically our public has been greatly opposed to anything like that. And they've pretty much risen up and stood up and said no. So he's been constrained. And the funny thing is, the things that constrained Trump in his first administration were the career bureaucrats, the career service people, and the people he chose for his administration that were fundamentally competent people running their agencies for the most part. And those people, they may be conservative, most cases they were conservative, but that doesn't mean that they are bad at governing. They just may govern in a way that you or I may not agree with. But when you replace people who Trump thought were quote unquote disloyal to him with people who are loyal but utterly incompetent, well, you know, you can see where this goes. And you can see what happens. I mean, the bad part is people die. People died in Texas that we may someday find out didn't have to die because this was mishandled at some level. I'm not going to sit here and say, "Oh yeah, Trump cut National Weather Service funding and that's definitely what happened," because it's a lot more nuanced than that. That's one part of it, but there's more to it. What happens is all of these factors come together along with governmental ineffectiveness and Trump being perceived as ineffective, Trump being perceived as the country going in the wrong direction. And eventually any administration this happens to withers and crumbles. Because from a political science point of view, an administration without popularity, without public support, without competent governance, without the ability to demonstrate it is doing things that its people like, does fail. And I don't mean just politically fail. I mean electorally fail. I mean governmentally fail. They got their bill through the Congress. I mean, that is true. They got their tax cuts passed. But in terms of policy and what they're doing, I mean, the bill is wildly unpopular. The policies are very unpopular. So you're looking at an administration that their version of wins is what makes Trump happy. And this is the difficulty with, and I wish the voters would have been more savvy to this before the election. This is what happens, is capable of happening whenever a president is elected that doesn't have to run again or face the voters. There's no the backstop for all accountability is the ballot box. And when there's no backstop for accountability, as Trump put it himself, he's just doing whatever he wants. Um, I'll tell you what, we're going to take a quick break because Lillian makes a relevant point to there. Hello, Lillian. Uh, she said his coalition seems to be coming apart. Epstein matters to hardcore MAGA who believe in demons, those who wanted violent criminals to be deported, those who did not understand how much regular folks need government are all getting schooled the hard way. So that's very true. That's very, very true. People are finding out about this. And they're finding out of this in their own lives, which is how these things kind of make an impact. And by the way, if you want more people in this chat, you want more conversation going, hit that heart button, give that a like, because then more people see it on Substack. This is a free chat. Anybody can come in and join us and talk to us. So, if they want, give us up. There they go. There's some hearts coming. That'll get some people to see it. That'll get some people saying, hey, maybe we should check this out. Michael Moore says this is what happens when we elect people who don't believe the government should not do anything or should do anything. That's true. That's true. And I think that the people who think they believe that don't understand that they don't mean the government shouldn't do anything for them. They mean the government shouldn't be doing things for things they disagree with or things for other people. And how many times have we seen stories since the election that tell us, well, this person on Medicaid didn't realize when they voted for Donald Trump that Trump was going to come for their benefits. This person who voted for Donald Trump didn't realize that Trump was going to deport their husband or wife. This person did not realize that Trump meant them. And if you want the true base cause of why this is all going, it's all kind of crumbling. And I wouldn't say it's crumbled because it hasn't yet. But you can see if it's a building, you can see the cracks going up the sides of the walls. And part of the issue is Trump thinks he is MAGA. He said as much. I determine what MAGA is. And there's a whole lot of people who've been with him for a decade who thought that they were part of the movement. It turns out there's no movement. It's just Donald Trump, according to Trump, which means that MAGA can be whatever Trump wants it to be on a given day. He's trying to apply the same theory to the country. When he did his little angry post about Rosie O'Donnell and he decides what's good for America or whatever, that's him trying to project the same mentality that he is the decider and he gets to decide for everybody. And the divide within MAGA you're seeing is people are like, hey, wait a minute. We can't pressure you because you don't have to run again. And you say that you decide what we are. And if we disagree with that, we can't do anything about it. And that is what's happening. That is the fundamental crumble. And you know what? If you want to look to 2026 and 2028, is you go back and look at previous elections in the last decade when Donald Trump is not on the ballot, Republicans struggle. And it's going to get worse. Trump isn't on the ballot in 2026. He will try to, do he's trying to do the Texas gerrymander, the Ohio gerrymander, so they can maybe rig up enough House seats to keep the House. But the problem is they have already gerrymandered the House, Texas, so much that there's not much left there to give. And I also read a great thing where there's a contradictory argument there. Texas claimed in their original justification for the gerrymandering they just did that they used racially blind data. They did not use, they didn't have any racial motivation or anything. Now Texas is coming back and saying, but we need to use racially blind data. They're saying, but we did, but now we don't need to, so we need to redistrict again. So when did they lie? Did they lie the first time they gerrymandered, or are they lying now? But it doesn't make sense. None of this makes sense, and I don't think they're going to be able to gerrymander much more out of Texas. And Hakeem Jeffries I didn't write this today, but it was part of the same interview. Hakeem Jeffries did not rule out Democrats doing their own bit of gerrymandering in blue states to wipe out what Trump is trying to do in Texas and Ohio. Okay, I am opposed to gerrymandering. I don't like it when Democrats do it. I don't like it when Republicans do it. But Republicans have been at this game for solidly now 25 years. And they did it before, and it goes way, way, way back in our history. If you want to dig way back, they've been doing it since Jim Crow and trying to deny African Americans the right to vote. Voter repression and suppression is voter repression and suppression. And one of the things that we need to talk about, if we're going to talk about Thursday and John Lewis and the Day of Action, everybody talks about repealing Citizens United, repeal Citizens United, get dark money out. We don't talk anymore about restoring the Voting Rights Act. And that's something we need to do. Yeah, after the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act, we need to restore the Voting Rights Act. And the good thing about that is, in the Supreme Court ruling, they gave the criteria and specifications that Congress would have to follow to restore the Voting Rights Act. Because they said in the ruling, Congress does have the power to do this, but it has to be done in this certain way. One of the mistakes that Democrats have consistently made is they have not used their power when the brief times when they've had total control of government to restore the Voting Rights Act. Voting rights are fundamental to everything. If you want to stop gerrymanders, if you want to stop big money, if you want to stop a lot of things, the basic first principle is people need to be able to vote, especially traditionally discriminated against classes of people electorally. Women, minorities, people with disabilities. Those are all groups, one time or another have had their vote taken away, have had their vote limited. There's more, but we need to talk about that. Like, if we're going to talk about, the 17th, it's a big day of action. Well, that's great. John Lewis, till his dying day, was all about getting the Voting Rights Act restored. Up the elderly, Mona Gray says that's true. Okay. Um, okay, if we get to the Save Act, Michael Moore, if we can. Um, we did a good 20 minutes there. Usually I do some greetings for you guys. We're going to take a couple minutes to say hello to some people. Michael Moore, hello. Mona Gray, hello. Sylvia Kessler, hello. I'm going newest backwards. Carl J. Shoemaker, hi, Carl. And Carl says that he thinks the Texas gerrymander is going to backfire and misfire. I think he's right. I think he's completely right. I think what we've seen in the past with voter suppression laws within the last, I would only say like 5 to 8 years, is when people see their votes are being taken away, they tend to go out and push even harder to vote. But I think what's becoming clear with Trump is that he's not interested in ending elections. Donald Trump is interested in anything that doesn't benefit Donald Trump. He doesn't want to stay in power forever. He doesn't want to end elections. He wants to get all the money that he can get. And my God, he is trying to rewrite history. I have never seen a president use their office in an attempt to rewrite history like Trump is doing. I mean, he did it today. I wrote the story. I just published it before I came here. Please let me pull it up and link it for you. And why, by the way, one of the reasons why I can't free link, or maybe I haven't figured it out, is because I don't have access to the chat before it goes live. I can't. If I could, I would load you guys up with a bunch of stuff, kind of like reference materials, and we would actually do come in a lot ready to roll and steaming ahead. But I have to kind of come up this up as this comes in the conversation. Here's the story from today. Trump tried to rewrite history and blame Joe Biden for Russia invading Ukraine. And he's also trying to, let me see if I put this the right way. He's trying to make his promise that he would end the war in 24 hours disappear. He's just trying to say that this is Biden's war. This is not Trump's war. I don't have anything to do with it. Actually, he does. He's the one who promised to end it. He's the one who has been, making promises. Now he's threatening Russia with 50% tariffs. Let's take a second on this. He's yet to seriously impose any of these tariff threats. Do you really think that Vladimir Putin is going to be shaking in his boots whenever Russia's already heavily sanctioned due to this war? Tariffs are not the answer. Um, but Trump is trying to rewrite history in every form. Everything, whenever Pam Bondi fired the 20 DOJ employees who worked on the cases against Trump over the weekend, that was done in an attempt to erase history, erase the classified documents case, discredit the 1-6 cases and the classified documents cases by saying these people did something wrong. And it's also a chilling effect to make sure that nobody investigates Trump again. So that's what's happening here. The man wants to rewrite history and make himself one of the great presidents in his own mind. That and money are his two primary goals. So when you have an administration that's based on poor governance, poor personnel, lack of popularity, and even though we have circumstantial evidence, but we're going to find out that there's a whole lot of corruption going on here. I'm going to guess if Democrats take back power. When you have those factors in play, you have sort of the bad cavity in the dental politic. You have something where, either we repair this as a people or that tooth is going to fall out. And I have an appointment at the dentist tomorrow, so that's probably why I made the cavity reference. Um, so let me do a couple more greetings real quick. Patty D and two others. Hello, two others. You probably deserve names as well. Uh, Carolyn Natziger and CMP have joined. Nancy Logic Klein. I believe we've seen Nancy here before. Steve Johnson. Hello, Steve. Susan Fago. Hello, Susan. Lynn Bridwell. Almost got that wrong. Hello. Graham Wiley and OK are both here. Hello, guy. Hello, folks. I don't know if OK is what OK is, male or female or neither, but hello, OK. OK. Yeah, it's Dr. Sandra Gangstead is here, and so is Anthony Pope. Brian. Brian says, and let's read this for a minute. Uh, Dems are where we are right now because we spent too much time trying to be, quote, bipartisan and too little time recognizing the modern day GOP as fascist. Yeah, that fundamentally, I think your point's solid, and that Democrats didn't realize that Republicans aren't playing by the same rules of democracy as the rest of us. And it's taken them too long to realize this. I mean, look at Hillary Clinton's campaign in 2016. Hillary Clinton I'm going to voice my own personal opinion that Hillary Clinton was the most qualified person ever to run for president in, I don't want to say ever, ever's a long time in the history of this country, in the modern era. And you can even say in the last 100 years, find me a presidential candidate that was more qualified than Hillary Clinton in the last century. I mean, there might be some arguments, but find me someone who's more clearly more qualified. You can't. And Hillary Clinton ran a very traditional campaign against a candidate who was running a tabloid campaign, running a campaign based on trolling and attention. And what Trump realized that Democrats maybe still haven't is our media is so shallow and superficial that they will go for the shiny object every time, every single time. And that is the key to his media success. That and the fact that when the reporters call him, he picks up the phone himself. He gives them attention. He learned that from the tabloids in New York. He's playing the same game. Okay, let's do a couple more hellos. Peter, Peter Sikorsky. Hi from Wisconsin. Oh, there's our friend Pam. Hello, Pam. Pam says hi, Jason. Sylvia Kessler's here. Oh, Amanda Waller. Oh, Cheery. I hope that's right. And Deborah Polovent. Oh my God, if I got that wrong, as usual, you guys that have been here for coming these every week. If I get somebody's name horribly wrong, I'm so sorry. Please put a phonetic pronunciation in the comments. I'll make sure I don't do it again. Okay, I'm just scrolling up a little bit, make sure I didn't miss anybody. Stephen S. Cyril, MD, is here. Hi, Dr. Stephen. Billy McKenzie's here. So we're going to scroll back down, see if you guys, and by the way, this isn't just me talking. If you guys have questions, put them in the chat. We'll do our best to answer them. I'm really interested in what you think was the most effective way to honor John Lewis. Do you protest, day of action, organization? What do you think would be the proper way, or maybe all three? Maybe you can do all three in a day. But that's the great thing about this day, because unlike the protest days, maybe you have mobility issues, maybe you're not quite as young as you used to be. You can still participate on Thursday. You can pick up the phone and help organize. You can make phone calls. You can play your part. The great thing about activism is there's no age limit. And you can keep doing it as long as your brain's willing and your heart's willing for as long as you can. Uh, Danielle says the Electoral College. Lillian says we should have put our time into defining the orange clown. We need to do it now on steroids. I think Trump has already been defined. It's been a decade. I think what Democrats need to do, Lillian, you got a really good point there. I think they need to make sure they don't fall into the normalization trap. I see so many people saying, "Oh, when Trump does something corrupt or wrong or illegal or breaking norms." I see so many people who say, "Oh, well, that's just another Trump thing." Well, but that's not normal. And we need to tell people, everyone needs to understand, because if you're going to protect the integrity of our governmental system, people need to understand things aren't normal. So when we talk about normalizing Trump, that's what we mean a lot of the time. Okay. Kathy Obreo is here with us. Stacy Plowman Clark. Thank you for having an easy to pronounce name. David Harrington and Theodore Bell are here. Susan Delpino is here. Hi, Susan Delpino. Nice to see you. Barbara, it's still criminal behavior. We elected a felon, Michael Moore says. That's true. That's true. It doesn't matter. We can't just sit there and shrug it off. And we can't let the country shrug it off. And that's a big part of the job. And some people may say, to me, like, why do you write all these stories documenting all this stuff? Well, because it needs to be documented. And if you look at regular mainstream media, they've kind of put Trump through their filter of a normal president, and they have because there's a very structured way of programming for big media, and it all follows kind of a format. President President A is B in C. It's like a fill in the blank across administration, the basic form of coverage. So instead of looking at Trump and going, hey, this is really messed up and not normal, and we need to talk about this, the media has consistently decided to make Trump normal by talking about him the same way they would talk about any other president. Okay, Lillian, I asked for some ideas about good trouble. Lillian says there are a lot of ways to get in good trouble. Some here in Oakland are doing traditional protests. Some are doing freeway overpasses with big letters spelling out messages, etc. Those are all good things. I am a sucker for the nice freeway overpass or sign projected on a building. That's a lot of fun. Uh, Christopher Johnson is here. Ginger is here. Ellen Sue Stern and Dan the Galaxy Man. Which galaxy? Our galaxy or just all galaxies? Interesting. Carl Shoemaker says, stand on the corner with a friend and just one sign. If everybody did that, that would be one heck of a protest, wouldn't it? Brian Zwicker's here. Carmen is here. Michael Moore said, who knew that Network was such a prophecy? Oh, it really was a prophecy. And it's one of those classics that really holds up. Network is a great movie. If you want to check it out, it's a little the gender sort of roles and things are somewhat dated, but society changes, and that movie's from the 70s, so it's a 50-year-old movie. Give it a break. Detroit Voter is here. Hello, Detroit Voter. Boy, I like talking to Detroit Voter. Jay is here along with two others. So, you know, that's kind of where we are. This is a regime or an administration that it started out, and you would think that Trump would have learned this from the first time he did this, that when you shoddily construct an administration, you shouldn't be surprised when it falls down and collapses. And he really remember how he rushed everything in his first administration as far as picking the cabinet, picking everybody, picking everything, left a bunch of jobs unfilled, had a bunch of people doing three jobs at a time. Um, and the whole thing just didn't work. And COVID just made the whole administration just snap in pieces. Well, here we are again. We haven't had a COVID like event, thank heavens, but I would argue that Trump did an even worse job putting together the second administration. He learned nothing. He got even less qualified people. He has more people like Marco Rubio doing two or three jobs. It's just a mess. This is not the way to govern a country. Pam says, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. That's a network quote. Uh, Terry Taylor says the Common Coalition has put out a superb report that shows Kamala won the election. We do this every week. Um, yeah, no. Until I get hard. See, everybody has this data, right? Terry Taylor, they put together this data and say, see, Kamala Harris really did win. Nobody can say how. And if this was some vast conspiracy to steal the election, how did all these people stay quiet? It doesn't hold up. Um, so we're gonna see here. Oh yeah, Robert Franek, our old friend Robert says, "Hi, Robert, former Politicus USA contributor." He says he loved acting secretaries in the first term. He did. Lillian says he can't learn anything. That's why his businesses were crap. I read that he operated his business by setting his employees against each other. He's doing it now. Michael Moore. He got rid of the career technocrats that supported the appointees. Yeah, he got rid of the career people. And the fastest way to make a government completely dysfunctional is to get rid of the career people with the institutional knowledge. Patty D says he handpicked the most loyal for his cabinet. I watched the confirmation hearings. Patty, I wish more people were like you. Everybody should watch the big hearings, the confirmation hearings, the court hearings, the hearings on legislation. You learn so much. If you really want to learn about a bill, I mean, or a piece of legislation, you could read about it, which, gives you the baseline knowledge. Skim it over, read usually there's one pagers on legislation. So if you don't want to read the whole thing, you can read a 1 to 3 page summary of the bill and then watch the hearings, watch the floor debate, because you'll learn all kinds of nifty things. Oh, and by the way, guys, if you want more people to see this chat, hit that heart button, hit that like. That will get us noticed by more folks, and hopefully more folks will come in and join us. So, everybody, we're at a point right now where it's kind of the summer slow season in politics because, I mean, you've noticed it. I mean, the news kind of slows up. Congress is getting ready for its August recess. The rescission package, there's something really, really fascinating about this rescission package in that it has to be passed within 45 days. The 45-day limit is coming up at the end of the week. The Senate is still tinkering around with it and wanting to make changes. Now, what I'm not sure of is if the Senate makes changes and sends it back as a different bill, does the first bill expire because it has to be passed within 45 days or expire? That rescission package is funding for HIV and AIDS prevention. It's funding for NPR and PBS that are trying to claw back. It's a really fascinating thing going on by the end of the week. And here's an interesting tie point. Democrats are saying that if Republicans pass this rescission package, any chances of a bipartisan government funding bill are dead. And this isn't Chuck Schumer or one of the firebrands out there. This is Patty Murray, and we all know if you know Senator Patty Murray, she's not exactly a firebrand. She's not exactly out there making large statements. Um, I really think that no one's paying attention yet, but we really need to start because we could be heading for a government shutdown this fall. And if Democrats are serious about getting rid of those Medicaid cuts or getting rid of some of the more odorous things in that bill, they could use a government shutdown to do that. And since there are a lot of Republicans that don't want to ever see those cuts see the light of day, um, they could do that. I wrote an article this week showcasing that Democrats think it's going to be pretty easy to get rid of those Medicaid cuts and those Obamacare cuts. They think that if they get control of the House, there's enough Republican support to kill these things before they ever take effect. Up. Oh, Lillian, what's going to happen when they have to put real money next to each of the items in the budget? Yeah, that's when the rubber hits the road. When they have to literally sit there, Lillian, and try to figure out what money they're going to do, how they're going to pass a budget. I mean, these people can't. The only reason they passed the other legislation was because they the tax cuts, and they're terrified of Trump. Up, Christopher A. Johnson. I've been meaning to get to this comment. If someone wrote a book called The Art of Sailing and you found out the author accidentally sunk 6 of his boats, would you take him seriously? No, no, and that's exactly why Trump should have never been taken seriously. And I would argue that the gravest injustice our media has done was to not question Trump and take him seriously. And I'll say it again, treat him like any other candidate. He should have never been treated like any other candidate. And he shouldn't be taken seriously. Why rehire a failed businessman? Carl Shoemaker said. Well, because they were mad about, I don't know, gas prices and inflation. And Trump said, oh, I can fix that. And people just went, I don't want to deal with this election. And they decided they were going to vote for him anyway. Because actually the decision to elect Trump was made by summer of that year. People just tuned out, then voted. That was it. There wasn't anything else to it, really. So really, Kamala Harris would have had to run a gangbusters campaign. Oh, Carl Shoemaker. Carl Shoemaker asked, "What does news not tell us?" News doesn't tell you a lot of things, And because time is often so compressed in television news, they don't tell you often why somebody said something or why something is being done. They don't tell you how things work very effectively. Most of the time, because they don't know how things work. They don't know. And then news is so obsessed with talking heads and drama moments that they don't tell you the regular stuff that, like, maybe every day this is happening in the Trump administration, and an agency within the Trump administration is cutting out some vital program. And that rarely gets coverage, but mostly they don't really tell you what your government is doing and why it's doing it and how it's supposed to work. That it wouldn't take much to explain how it's supposed to be done versus what's really being done. But they tend to skip over that part. Lillian says we should go ham on Congress, calls, emails, demos, SM when they get to the budgeting. Seems like another great chance to have with. Yeah, yeah, they're already nervous about this budget bill, and it will be a real prime opportunity if any of you want to step up and argue for some of your priorities or argue for some of these positions that these Republicans have taken. Rosamund Hubbard is here. Patty R is here. Sharon H is here. Hello, hello, hello. Sharon and Mary McSee are here. Susan Ann Henry is here. Vera Shaw. Whoop, Snow and Anita James. I probably need to clean my computer screen. Roger Hood. Roger Hood is here. M. Murkivia. Oh, I'm sorry if I messed that all up. Carrie Grace says, dumbing down of America is complete. This regime thinks we will work without rights or freedom. They have another thing coming. Yeah, I think they do. And I think they don't understand how deeply ingrained the desire for rights is in this country. I don't think they get how they just can't take things away that are rights. I mean, even though Republicans have so much control over Roe, look at look at what's happened. Look at what's happened since Roe was overturned. Have women suddenly forgot that their rights are gone? No. Have many Americans forgotten all of a sudden their rights are gone? No. You can't just take it right away. And mark my words, if health insurance premiums skyrocket in January, all hell is going to break loose because they aren't going to blame Democrats when their $130 premium or $13 premium, when their $13 premium, let's say if they have a good ACA plan, goes up to $400 a month. They're not going to blame Democrats. Or when their private insurance that was already really expensive. I'll give you a quick private insurance story. When we had private insurance, we had our old private insurance plan. 1 year, they decided to up our monthly premium by 92%. um, you know, that's the kind of thing that's going to might look small in January. And that's really going to be the next thing that if something else doesn't hit home, along with the high prices, the inflation, the failed Trump promises, that's really going to do it to it. So, and when people see their health insurance go up, and with Medicaid, they're talking about slapping copays on Medicaid for everything, and there are some copays on Medicaid right now. But they're talking about $35 to go see your doctor. If you're on Medicaid, $35 is a whole lot of money. Okay, maybe if you're not on Medicaid, if you're on Social Security, $35 is a lot of money. If you're on a fixed income, $35 is a lot of money. Nobody likes to spend $35 for something that they maybe not even used to have a copay for. So that's what's coming down the pike. Michael Moore said these copays and price increases may mean you don't eat. And that's the thing. As Obama highlighted back in the day, and it's very true, people shouldn't have, and Joe Biden as well, people shouldn't have to choose between eating and the medications they need to keep themselves alive. That's that's very much a dilemma and a real choice that I'm afraid a lot of people might be facing. And we talk about the Medicaid cuts coming in 28 and some of the stuff coming in the 2026 election. There's immediate stuff that's going to be happening that's not good. So we need to be ready because when this all breaks loose, pointing fingers at somebody and telling them I told you so isn't nearly as effective as saying, okay, this is why this happened. Here's what you can do about it. Oh, Lillian brought that up. One of my favorite quotes from one of the Republicans, one of the House Republicans, I believe. Lillian says, "Oh, don't forget, Medicaid folks are going to go work in the fields instead of immigrants." Yeah, because kids, the disabled, and our elders are always known as being great at intense physical labor. Breakthrough has joined. By the way, guys, if you have any questions, put them in the chat. Two people joined. That's a weird one. They didn't even tell me who these two people are, just two random people. And what are we going to do to make sure it doesn't happen again? Let's see. Michael asked, what are we going to do to make sure it doesn't happen again? Are we talking about Trump? How do we not elect another Trump? I think if that's the case, Democrats need to, and the country needs to be aware, and they need to raise their standards of what they want in a president, what they demand in a president. This crazy, weird thing happened with MAGA that before Trump came along, there was a high standard for the presidency. Even if you don't like Ronald Reagan in the least, disagree with everything the man ever did, even hate all of his movies. Reagan was a two-term governor of a large state. George W. Bush. George W. Bush, you may think he was a dweeb, but two-term governor of a state had qualifications. Something weird happened where the bar was lowered for Trump. And the danger is that the bar gets lowered for other candidates in the future. And if that occurs, then we got a real problem because it used to be, and our constitutional system is based on the assumption, our governmental system is based on this assumption that voters will make educated choices and choose wise people. We've seen what happens when a non-wise person is chosen. Oh, what are we going to make sure it happens again? How do we rebuild after this is over? Oh, I love that question, Michael Moore. How do we rebuild after all this is over? That's one of my favorite questions because we're going to have a great opportunity. We're going to get to modernize and rebuild the federal government. We're going to get to modernize and rebuild the country. Trump taking us backward like this provides the opportunity to not say build back better, to rebuild in a more forward thinking way. If we get a president that has the vigor and creativity and willingness to rebuild in a forward thinking way, we can actually take this country in new and better directions and build a government that is modern. The problem with government is that there's sort of a layering that occurs over time. Policy layers on top of policy on top of policy. And if you're in a department, if you've ever had a job in an office and there was just management changes and the new manager puts in a new policy, then that manager goes and another new manager comes in and they put in a new policy. But the old policy really doesn't kind of fully ever go away. It just kind of gets piled one on top of the other, on top of the other, on top of the other. And that's kind of what's happened over the government over the years. We need to modernize. And I think that's what Joe Biden was trying to do in so many areas of his presidency. He was trying to modernize America in terms of energy, in terms of job creation, in terms of a lot of things. And we're not there yet. Trump is taking us backward. So the next president is going to have to be a forward thinking person who wants to modernize. Lillian says, and I'm gonna go. Lillian says, I want to spend a week not worrying that my president is going to be killing people. That would be good. That would be a nice relief, wouldn't it? Boy, weren't the Biden years nice. Just being able to know that there's somebody in the Oval Office who's sane and is not going to do something crazy that's going to get a bunch of people hurt. Um, B says, I think we should support what he's doing now, but I don't think he's going to put citizens ahead of big money or special interest. B says, oh, I got to go up ahead because B has another comment. B said, I agree with the words Gavin Newsom is using in the fight he's bringing, but we need to remember his history when the primaries happened. He's saying the right things. He caters to the audience and has done plenty to not trust. B, I don't think Gavin Newsom really has a realistic chance of being the Democratic nominee. Because Kamala Harris was from California, and the party's already kind of done that. I think that hurts Gavin Newsom in a lot of ways, and I agree with you. I'm not sure how Newsom stacks up when you put him beside a bunch of other Democrats. Is he going to have the personality, charisma, and kind of power to cut through what could be a 30 candidate field? And the one that comes out of this, the nominee in 2028, is going to be a person that can stand above that crowd. Um, and on George W. Bush. Up, Detroit voter says Donald Trump has never even organized a scout troop. We need a job description. Actually, that's part of some of this legislation that's been floating around out there. Sort of a job description, but also a desire to have medical records released, more transparency from candidates where they can appear on ballots. Um, a job description would be really helpful. And, job descriptions are always helpful when people aren't sure what the job is. Everybody thinks they know what the president does or should be doing. But what we've learned from the Donald Trump experiences is that there's no real guidebook for a president, and they can go off in all kinds of directions. We always had people who loved the country, and even if they were conservative, you knew that they were going to uphold certain principles of America. Donald Trump isn't a conservative, and he's not upholding American principles. In fact, he's undermining them. Let's see here. Okay. Up B says, I honestly hope Kamala runs again. B, I have this crazy, maybe not crazy. I have this odd idea that Kamala Harris is going to go off, and she's still fairly young. Saying someone who's like around her age. I I think she's going to go off. I hope she goes off and gets to be governor of California because I think that's the perfect job for her to kill some time with. I don't think 2028 is her year. I think if she goes off and does a great job as governor of California, then decides to run again, she could be a great comeback story. We have Michael Moore is promoting Jasmine Crockett 2028. I don't think Jasmine Crockett can win the presidency. Basically, because the House is a horrible place to run for president from. Awful. Not a good spot to run for president from. Now, if she could ever become a senator from Texas or a governor, then we're talking we got something there. Oh, B is concerned about how independent media is fangirling over Gavin Newsom. I think part of that, B, in all honesty, is because media, non-Trump media or non-compliant Trump media, I will say, they're looking for voices that will criticize. And that is very important in the country right now, but it's also I think that some people can go a little over the top for anybody that criticizes Trump. Uh, that's just kind of the way things go. Anderson Cooper, wonder if that's the CNN anchor saying hi. I don't think it is, but I'll bet you get that a lot if your real name's Anderson Cooper, and I'm sorry. Uh, Peter Athena says she's 60 years old. Okay, let me just remind everybody the last two presidents we've elected have been more than a decade older than that. If Kamala Harris someday would run for president at age 66 or 68, then I wouldn't say she's disqualified by any stretch. Sharon asks, I worry if we don't prioritize saving the planet, we're all out of luck. Trump is not that president. You know what? I thought Biden did a really good job of integrating a climate change agenda into a practical agenda of jobs and energy. And I think that he laid the groundwork for that. Um, and I think that we need a president that will do more of the same at a more accelerated pace. I think the words climate agenda have been so demonized that a lot of people's ears turn red and they seize up when they hear it. Um, I think that when you can integrate a pro climate agenda into other policy areas, then you can make some real progress. And it's so beneficial across so many different questions. Um, and Goss says, yeah, Pete, I've always been impressed. Oh, I heard a Pete Buttigieg comment down there. Sue Maxwell, I would like to see Pete run for president. Pete is going to run for president. I don't think Pete can win a Democratic primary. I'll be honest. I think Pete's a little too moderate, and the stuff that goes along with Fox News doesn't play well in Democratic primary states necessarily. Pete got lost in the shuffle in 2020. I'm afraid that in a big field, the same thing would happen to him again. Uh, and I like Pete Buttigieg a lot. Pete's really great, but the problem with Democratic primaries is Democratic primary voters tend to lean more to the left, and a lot of those primaries are closed primaries, which means independents don't vote. Any place where independents can vote, or there's a lot of crossover voting in the Democratic primary, is good for Pete Buttigieg. Any place that's going to have kind of more of a hard left electorate, that's where Pete might run into some trouble. Media that makes us think. I got to beat up because some of you guys are just talking to each other and I can't jump in there. AOC and Pete is the ticket I want. That would be interesting. I think AOC has a very, very bright future. Whether she wants to be leading in the House someday, um, a senator from New York, or a presidential candidate, to me, AOC is the heir apparent in the progressive movement of Bernie Sanders. And Bernie's been really generous about um, giving his time and attention and platform to a lot of young progressives. But I think that AOC is the one that's the heir apparent. She's also one of the ones that has most integrated herself within the Democratic Party. She's sort of a Democratic Party progressive, not a outside the party progressive. I think that makes a big difference because we saw with Bernie trying to run for president as an independent, Democrats tend to want to vote for a Democrat, a lot of Democrats. Um, JJ and Angela Romero have joined. Brenda Martin and Polly Ballantine have joined. A House Divided Cannot Stand has joined. I think A House Divided Cannot Stand has joined. I wish I came up with a clever acronym for that. And McCracken is here. You know what? I'm seeing some of you guys that have been here before. This is great. Not all you guys can make it every week. I'm trying to send out notices in advance for these. So if you can make it, what do you think of this time? Does 3 o'clock work for you? 3 p.m. Eastern. I'm trying to juggle for our friends on the West Coast. I don't want to leave our friends on the West Coast. I don't want to hold these things too early and make them have to get up at 4 in the morning to join us. But I also don't want them to be so late that our folks in the East are off taking care of other matters. You know, I really like that we've kind of gone into a little bit of 2028 talk because the conversation is there could be as many as 30 Democrats running. for the nomination. Left Coast here. Yeah, we're gonna try to get you guys, like, eventually, when I'm gonna start breaking these down, and we're gonna do subscriber onlys for the daily and subscriber onlys for Politicus USA because we are 2 different publications, and I'll do a free one too, but, eventually, I'll have some more variability in the time. I just wanna make sure that, those of you who commit the time to be here, A, you get something from this because remember, we need to inform. We need to inform each other. We need to inform everyone else. And we can't do that if we aren't all on the same page in the same place talking. So I want you guys to let me know. Let me know what works for you, what doesn't work for you. We had a commenter earlier that was not happy with the way I started out. You know, that's I will take that criticism and I will try to implement some different things and we'll see what happens. So, I mean, I know that like people sometimes want to just get straight to the point of it, but sometimes you got to kind of start where you start and you got to be organic and real and genuine. And I could sit here and I could write up pages and pages of stuff and I could look at my computer and look up at you and look at my computer and look up at you and I could read it all to you. Um that's I don't that's while you may be hearing knowledge, there's no difference. You might as well watch MSNBC if you're going to do that. I mean, imagine if you could talk back to the people at MSNBC and they responded to you. I'm nowhere near the level of MSNBC, let's be honest. But the idea is the same. It's a different form of communication. Oh, MJ is here. Hi, MJ. Rosemary Yell is here. Jason Dyer. Wow, I'm seeing some new names. I really like this. Ludwig Vogel is here. And usually when I have a topic in mind for discussing with you guys, um, we'll start off with that topic and then we'll kind of go wherever you may take it. I do think that, yeah, we are Michael Moore. You're correct. We are building a community here. And, I really hope that if you guys aren't subscribed, Robert has a great question. We'll get to that in a second. If you guys aren't subscribed, I really hope you'll consider subscribing to Politicus USA or the Daily or both. That would be $12 a month if you could do it. That would be freaking awesome. We still haven't gotten together a way to bundle those up, but if we ever do, we'll let you know. Sarah is the visionary behind the Daily who focuses more on long form writing and in-depth analysis. You're gonna learn stuff from the Daily that you don't know. And me, I hope you learn stuff at Politicus USA. We're doing some more I do more news kind of stuff and shorter kind of stuff. Like if you need your headlines, that's a good place to come to. I'll put links to each of them in the chat here in a bit. We got some people to talk to here. Who gets fired first? Robert asks. Christine Nome or Pam Bondi? Oh, that's a good one. Well, since Trump just stood behind Pam Bondi, I'm gonna say neither. I'm gonna say that they both stick around until after Democrats win the midterm election, and then one or both of them departs. That would be my guess. Whoever has the most to be worried about from a congressional investigation is going to flee first for the exits. Uh, B says, I would be surprised anyone gets fired. It would be as big of a sycophant. B and I agree. Lillian says, this chat is intimate. In the huge ones, the chat moves too fast. Love the bundle idea. Substack has so many good voices. Deidre Bush has joined. Tammy Swain has joined. I think we've seen Deidre here before, maybe even Tammy too. But hello. If you've been here before, welcome back. I really hope you're getting something out of this conversation. Yeah, I mean, I think that in the larger chat, probably is harder for the people doing them to maybe converse back and forth. But I'll tell you what, I would love to try. 3,000 people in here, and we'll see how it goes. Um, I'm not sure what a normal chat number is, but I would sure like to try because I think that different perspectives, different voices are always useful. By the way, George has joined. Okay. By the way, if you have any questions, put them in the chat. If you want to say hi, put them in the chat. Because some of you guys are starting to get to know each other now. Peter McQuaid has joined. Don't be afraid to say hi to your pals. Don't be afraid to say hi to me. I'm here in Pennsylvania. Anybody wants to talk about where they are, that's fine. It looks like it's about to rain any second now, which means it's a regular day in Western Pennsylvania. Um, I think that this administration, whenever the investigations actually start, we're going to learn a whole lot of stuff, and it's not going to be good. It's going to be, I have a feeling there's more going on than we're aware of right now. And it's probably not going to stop until it's had somebody, namely Democrats in Congress, have the power to expose it. Uh, Remember, I always have to bring this up. Trump may have immunity for official acts, quote unquote. Trump does not have, well, the members of his administration have no such immunity. So, people might be thinking they can behave like Donald Trump and get away with it as long as he's got their back. But he's not going to be there forever. And if anybody's doing anything wrong, it's going to come out. B says, I find it interesting that since Trump has been sniping at Putin, all of a sudden the Russia sympathizers aren't letting go of the Epstein thing. That's a very interesting connection. Can't wait for the House to be in Dem hands and there can be real oversight, William says. Yeah. Yeah. Well, he still has the power of the pardon. That's true. But I'm thinking a little further ahead, Michael Moore. Um, that the next Democratic administration could go back and investigate corruption in the Trump administration. And I think that might be possible. And I think if there's one lesson that needs to be learned, it is don't be a Merrick Garland. When you have the power to act, you act. Okay. Susie Cook, my bad. Just FYI, I've been in Australia since February at my daughter's. Australians loathe Donald Trump. That just makes Australians a member in good standing of the global community. Uh, Perry Sibley says, hello. You've joined. Hello. Up. Debbie Schultz has joined, or Deb Schultz. Hello. Nathan Sager has joined. Sager? Hello. Boy, you guys, man. Then there's no more Joe Smiths out there, are there? But I really appreciate you guys. I really appreciate you showing up. I appreciate you being here. Um, okay, I'm gonna ask before we wrap up for the day. Where do you stand on impeachment? Is it a something worth pursuing, or is it a waste of time? I think the fear might be why he's going to try to fix the elections. That fear might be why he's going to try to fix the elections. Yeah, I don't. The election fixing that's going on, Rosemary Yell, is happening right in front of your face through gerrymandering. That's what you got to be aware of. But you got to pay attention to. These are not unrelated things on separate tracks. They're the same thing. Like when Elon Musk was out there doing his spending millions and millions of dark money on disinformation in swing states and voter suppression tactics in swing states in 2024. He didn't do that hidden away in a corner somewhere. He was out there in public talking about it. And that's the thing. Like these guys, they don't hide stuff. They just do it. Yes, elections are run at the state level. That's correct, Lillian. They use gerrymandering. Yep, gerrymandering, since elections are run at the state level, Gerrymandering is the way to manipulate elections, and voter disenfranchisement, um, it's the way to use the electoral system to reshape the electorate to most benefit their party. Yes, I've seen the Election Truth Alliance stuff. I'm not a big believer in this stuff. I need more information than just a pile of data, honestly. Um, like I said, if there's some people that did some stuff, then they really need a lot of the stuff that these data folks are bringing up could equally be achieved through voter suppression and voter disenfranchisement and misinformation. Okay, let's go back and look through some other stuff. Sue Maxwell on impeachment says, right now, I think waste of time. If Democrats could take the House in 2026, then impeachment should be attempted. Okay. Remember, it takes 67 votes to convict. Democrats have never gotten close to 67 votes on a Trump impeachment previously. So is it still viable? Remember, impeachment in the House is more like the investigation and charges. And then the Senate trial is where the conviction or acquittal, a quick conviction or non-conviction and punishment occurs. I almost said acquittal. It's not an acquittal. Um, B says impeachment is a waste of time since we don't have the votes. Would be different if there was a chance, but the GOP are so far into the treason, they are self-preserving. Yeah, the votes aren't there, and that's a big downside. I'm not sure that you would really gain a lot from impeachment. Michael Moore, counterpoint. Impeachment is needed for no other reason than to uphold the rule of law. Well, that's true. It does send the message that, there is accountability. Is it is there really accountability though without punishment? Because impeachment without punishment is more of a public shaming. And the Republican Party right now is showing that it really, whether it's Trump or anybody else, can't be shamed. So is it really, really a punishment? Is it upholding anything? William J. Davis has joined. Impeachment would keep the orange clown occupied. That's true. But also, he's going to be irrelevant by January 2027, and the country's going to start moving to the 2026 election or 2028 election. Oh my God. I'm talking about 2026 so much it almost held it twice. um, Connection Group and Liz LaPlante have joined. Hello. Claire75 and Judy Astoria are here. Hello. Whoops. Veronica Luke and Home STEM are here. Hello, hello. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I appreciate you guys coming in. I appreciate you being here. If you have any questions, please, please put them in the chat. Okay, let's do I'm gonna put real quick, I'm gonna put the link in for Politicus USA's homepage. There we go. So that you guys can see what's happening over there. That's the article. That's not really right. I probably should have this lined up for you, and I could have done this anytime in the last hour, but we got to talking and I didn't. Okay, here we go. This is Politicus USA coming into you right now. Politicus USA. Now, is there anything you guys would like to see featured in a chat? And here comes the daily next. Because if there's anything you guys want to talk about beyond just talking in this forum for a little bit of space right here, if you want something to be a central focus of a topic, I'm open to it. Unless it's, something really bonkers. I do have limits. Okay. Oh, and by the way, if you're having trouble accessing the chat at all, the video the video that of us talking is on the front page of the Daily right now. So you can always, always, always catch it right there. Go to this address on chat days. Whoops, no, I put it in the right address. I thought I gave you the same link twice, and you will see it. Steve East has joined. Elaine Hanford has joined. I don't know what's wrong with my reading comprehension today. Um, Margaret Park. Margaret Park looks familiar. Hello, Margaret. Frank Mosa and Mike Witzke are here. God, I hope I get close. Roger Woody is here. Hello, Roger Woody. GLA Grandpa. Hi, GLA Grandpa. Nice to see you. I'm waiting for like somebody to get all smart and try to put a bunch of horrible sounding words in their username that I think I can repeat to you all. Jessica Homewood is here. Not very nice sounding name. Hello, Jessica Homewood. So, by the way, guys, hit that heart, hit that like, get more people to see this chat. That's always a good thing. It has started to rain here in Western Pennsylvania. I think you guys really, really bring it every week to this chat. You guys really bring interesting things to say. You have lots of interesting points to bring up. You ask great questions, and I'm really happy to get a chance to do these. So, if anybody has any more questions, we're getting close to our last call on questions. So, um, let's see here. Okay. Why isn't anyone talking about or investigating the 2024 rigged election? Musk and Trump admitted it. They didn't admit it necessarily. They danced around it, made some illusions, and nobody's investigating it because nobody's talked yet. Um, 20 here's another question. Nobody, if there was any kind of conspiracy or action going on, nobody's come forward to say, "Hey, here's what we did." That's what we need to have happen. Carrie Grace. 20 Republican House seats are scheduled for regular elections in November 2026. It would be more than 10 votes short to convict in February 2021. Yeah, yeah, you mean the votes to convict Trump on impeachment? Well, you would assume if Democrats hold their number and don't pick up any seats, which I think they might, you're probably going to be, yeah, more than needed. You would have enough seats to do that. But look at that. You would have to flip 20 Senate seats, and those are in some really, really red places, and that's probably not going to happen. Plus, the Senate reelection rate is well over 95% or more. So it's going to be hard. We need high profile defections to establish a permission structure. Um, you know, I tend to believe there wasn't some vast conspiracy to rig the 2024 election. I tend to believe it was just more of a confluence of factors between the Democrats bungling their whole nominating process, Democrats being depressed and not voting, and a highly sophisticated and coordinated voter suppression effort on the Republican side. Um, and I think it's just a lot of people that tuned out and made bad decisions that they're regretting now. Um, isn't MAGA states going to revolt? Carrie Grace asked. Um, here's the thing. When people are asked if they like Congress, they universally say no. However, when people are asked if they like their member of Congress, they are far more likely to say yes. And that's why it's so hard to like knock off a senator. People all think their senator isn't the problem. Oh, not into the denial of 2024. I mean the Congress to impeach. Yes. Lillian, thank you for clarifying that. We got a couple different conversations happening at the same time. Yeah, you do need, and I think once Trump is no longer, once he's on his way out the door, I think it becomes a lot easier for some of these Republicans to think maybe they could do this and it won't hurt them. And also, any of these Republicans that win new 6-year terms in 2026 are going to have a lot more runway. Anybody who's up in 2028 is going to be worried about the reelection and Trump lashing out at them. The MAGA states for voting, I'm not sure if the MAGA states will ever fully really revolt. I think it's a lot of talk. It's a lot of wishful thinking. Uh, Bernie Sharkers has joined us. Hello, Bernie. Heidi Hall is here, and so is Jeff Horton. Hi, Heidi Hall and Jeff Horton. I think that's some wishful thinking. We have a decade now of like practical experience telling us that they don't leave. They talk a big game, but they don't leave. So believe it when you see it. Whenever MAGA states will start voting for Democrats, then we'll have our proof. So that's where we stand. As far as August goes, August is an interesting month because Congress is out the door and they're all at home, which means there's a lot of town halls, there's a lot of protests, there's a lot of stuff. It's really where you get a good feel for how constituents are feeling about things. Now, so that's something worth paying attention to. As you can see, since the Republicans tried to front load their whole legislative agenda into one bill, they're not really going to be passing anything much for the rest of the year. Except for government funding. The government shutdown is the big thing in the fall. I need to probably turn up this light. It's getting really dark in here. Hold on 1 second here. Let's see if I can crank this up a little bit. There. It might be washed out a little bit, but at least you can see me and I'm not a shadow in the darkness. So that is town hall season. Time for fun, Lillian says. Town hall season is fun. It's kind of like Christmas for political junkies, where you get to go yell at your member of Congress if they hold town halls, because many of these Republicans are scared and they don't hold a town hall. So B says, I don't think they are personally and physically afraid of him. Democrats aren't afraid. They're standing up to him. Why wouldn't they be just as threatened? I think he has something legal over them, and he could have threatened whether he got his cabinet or not. Self-preservation. I do think there's a lot of self-preservation, and I do think that the Republicans greatly overestimate the power of Trump's base and the power Trump has over his base. Remember, the lesson to keep in mind with Donald Trump is he's not been able to successfully take power, but he's had a lot of people surrender their power to him. And so as long as you don't surrender your power, and if Republicans would learn this, they could box Trump in. Trump can't be successful. That's something very important. That's been very, very important to remember. Lillian says, empty chair town halls can be satisfying and newsworthy. Yes, they can. And I really like it when the Democrat running against that Republican that hasn't shown up happens to show up at the empty chair town hall. Robert says, my rep is only having telephone town halls. We call that cowardly because, they vet the phone calls before they'll even let somebody on. So they're not going to let somebody that's a non-constituent in there. I don't think they care about their jobs. I think he could put them away. Interesting. B says about the Republicans. Jessica Welch Eriksman. Eriksman? Interesting. Is here. Hello. He's forcing them to stay and toe the line. I very much agree with that piece. B said, and I agree with that completely. Jackie Centen Pettit. Oh, I hope that's right. Good God. I hope I butchered that. Beryl Ann Honeybone and Jean Guy Lucier are here. Hello. Boy, I'm having a heck of a day with these pronunciations. Please forgive me. So, we'll be talking more about town halls, how you can get involved, How many reps are retiring from the House this year? We don't have a good number yet, Lillian. Oh, you good try, Jackie says. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. That makes you smile. Um, we don't know yet, Lillian. We'll have a really good number. Expect that wave of retirements to start coming in like early winter, next winter, with spring before primary day. Oh, Letitia Ruiz has joined. Hello, Letitia Ruiz. We've been waiting for you. Nice to have you here. So we will know how many people will get a better view if their big beautiful bill doesn't help them and do what they hope it will do. We've had a few Republicans, yeah, like a handful, but we haven't had the mass wave of potential retirements coming yet. Christopher Dean says, "Too bad Trump is losing to my country, Canada, regarding trade and military." Yes, Trump is losing to Canada right now, and Canada has pretty much put on a master class of how to handle the taco tariff, and people need to really learn more from that. By the way, did you happen to catch Trump saying today that the letters he sent out telling people that if they don't give him what he wants, countries around the world, he's going to unilaterally impose tariffs on them on August 1st? And when asked where are the trade deals, Trump said the letters are the trade deals. So there's no trade deals. And most of the world's just laughing at him. They're not going to do a trade deal with him. Um, okay, we're at about our time. I think I better get moving. My phone is still hanging in there for once, the power on my phone. That's a good thing, but I don't want to push it. I really, really appreciate you guys being here. If you guys could subscribe to either Politicus USA or The Daily, that would be great. We'd appreciate it so much. Oh, Debbie Alvarez has joined. Hi, Debbie. I'm afraid we're just wrapping up. We will be back. I'll be back next week. And hopefully we'll have a lot to talk about. But like I said, we're getting to the time of year where it's going to be a little bit more of an open, free flowing conversation. So bring your questions. I will every week. I try to do my best. No one believes Trump anymore, Jackie Pettit says, and she's right. I will try to have something up so you guys can post questions in advance. Maybe we can find some topics in there. Like I said, if you have a topic you really want to talk about, uh, put it in the comments or let me know. Shrinking Trump will give people a better understanding of Trump mental disorder. That's true. That's true. The smaller you make this man become, the more his issues stand out. I really appreciate all of you. Thank you for showing up. You're really great. We will see you next week. And if you got any questions, you can go in the comment section of the Daily or Politicus USA. Keep the conversation going. This video will be uploaded to the Daily, and I will be putting out I'll write a little something with it, and we'll put this video out for anybody who missed anything. Go to the link above for the Daily. You can watch the whole thing. You can read what I'm going to write, and hopefully, if you're not a subscriber, hopefully you'll like it and maybe subscribe because we would that would really benefit us, and you're helping independent media. Patty says thank you for hosting. Patty, thank you for attending. I really appreciate it. We'll see you soon. Maybe the idea of Cuomo running as an independent. Oh my goodness. Or you guys really want to talk about Andrew Cuomo? Oh boy. Okay, we could do that. Um, we'll put that on the agenda for next time. Okay. Everybody, thank you so much. We'll talk again soon. And if you have any questions or anything, you can always email me. You can always hit me up in the comment sections of the Daily or Politicus USA. I'm right there. Boo. Boo for Andrew Cuomo. Yeah, we don't have to necessarily talk about Andrew Cuomo or spend much time on him. Because I think Cuomo is a bad apple if there ever was one. Um, we'll see you next week. Bye bye.